All right, welcome back to A Journey to King Cross, a Harry Potter book podcast. And we just finished up Diagon Alley,
Chapter 5.
and I feel like the story finally starts to have some legitimate fun with, like, the, hidden magical society inside of what would be considered modern-ish Britain at the time of, writing and publishing.
And we get our first real steps at world building.
Quite a bit of world building. Quite a few of the chapters weren't super long, but I think this one was almost in like good 45 minutes or something along those lines.
For 48, I think, but pretty long
Definite.
when listening to it.
We finally actually get a couple of like my more one of the more interesting scenes and stuff, and some of the things people like. Some of the scenes in this are like surprisingly important. Gringotts.
I was just comparing the pages in the book. It's 15 pages for chapter 4 and like 25 for chapter 5.
Good
so
chunk.
this is a sizably larger chapter.
So much more happens, though.
Yeah.
Like, we got to get all his supplies. They have a list of the supplies in the book, which unfortunately our copy is not the special copy that lists having a wand twice.
Oh, was that some copies?
Some copies that existed in the very early printings, having a wand was listed at the top of the list
And at the bottom.
and at the bottom.
Huh.
Interesting. But we get our full-on introduction to Draco Malfoy in this chapter, and
Along with Professor Quirrell.
yep, who, key detail, does in fact shake Harry's hand in the actual book. It's one of those little details that a lot of people who ask questions in Kiara always seem to forget, and it's like one of those tells of how you've actually consumed Harry Potter. If you've watched the movies, you only know like the one way, whereas people who are a little bit more into the books and stuff along those lines are like, oh no, like at this point in time he is not possessed by Voldemort. Basically, I don't think it actually happens until a good chunk into the school year, where Quirrell, I think, mentions that like some failure on his end meant that Voldemort was keeping a closer eye on him. But I want to say it was Halloween, but I'm not 100% on that.
Nope. Specifically, he does mention after he fails getting into Gringotts, I thought, was when he got possessed. Because Harry, at the banquet, flinches when he sees him. I think that happens in the book, too. I mean, I know it does in the movie, but wouldn't he flinch
If
when...
you had seen him at the Leaky
the
Cauldron.
Leaky Cauldron.
Well, to be fair, he was a stuttering wreck in that point.
But his scar
But
hurt.
his scar would have hurt.
That's a fair point, and that was what made
So
the
somewhere
red herring
between-
so much more with Snape, because that was the first time he met Snape. I do like the touch in the book that when Harry starts hurting and stuff, that Snape automatically looks at Quirrell, and it's that moment like you kind of like it's one of those little things in the book and stuff along those lines where Harry probably wouldn't have noticed it, but a keen-eyed audience.
It was in the movie focused on like Snape and Quirrell.
Oh, fair, but it's still a blink and you miss it sort of moment if you're not like fully like paying it. It's something that you could theoretically miss.
True, and you're right. It could. I don't remember for sure if it was at Halloween or not now, but they definitely mention in the book when it happens.
Yeah.
Well,
He
we'll
mentions
find
his
out
failure.
eventually.
But like the other thing is that I like about this, especially for a person like if anybody's doesn't know, Kiara is this place where you can ask questions, and it's every subject. And I've accidentally started answering questions in the Harry Potter section and everything, and so I get all sorts of stupid, like regrettably stupid questions and everything, and like when like certain things happen and everything, and I could just sort of look at this. He's like, I'm convinced there's either an AI asking stupid questions to poke and prod people in QR to keep them active, or there's a lot of people that have only watched the movies, or either that or just got so into fan fiction that they have mixed up what actually happened in the story as opposed to what has happened in a fan fiction that they actually remember and misconstrued as part of the original story in a sense.
It's actually there are a lot of people who have only watched the movies.
I mean,
Because
fair.
especially at this point in time, because like they were considered kids' books,
Yeah.
which I would not say. When I think kids' books, I think 12 and under Not for 12 and unders.
No.
Maybe like 10 at the youngest. But
She
these
says-
books were definitely more for
As we were...
teens.
I see the look, Mitchell. You and I were reading this in, like, what, 2nd, 3rd grade? And when we were, like, 9?
No, I started middle school. In fact,
Oh.
I was cringing because
Me.
I'm reading this to my daughter, who's 7 currently.
I was reading this in 3rd grade when I was, like, 9.
Yeah, but by the time you get to the real, beefier books, she'll be older.
There's a reason I haven't touched book 3 quite yet with her, is that I feel like book 3 starts to really pick up in the darker aspects. Hey, Nimbus. Anyway, we've got a new one running around. It's been a little while since we...
Cat.
Yeah.
A new cat running around.
Her name is Nimbus, and my wife is thoroughly convinced she was named after the Harry Potter broom, in a sense.
We adopted her from my friend, and my friend is a very big Potterhead. So I'm pretty sure she was named after the broomstick.
She's a very, very fuzzy cat.
So
Crunk
if you
shakes, eat your heart out.
Yep, so if you hear any meowing or chirping, it's probably Nimbus.
She's very vocal when she wants attention.
Yep.
Anyway, the other thing that always irritated me with the Kiara stuff is the idea that Malfoy gets bullied, when it sounds, based off of his description, to be quite the opposite. When we get the whole little dialogue and everything, Malfoy does not do a very good job in having a first impression with one of his classmates. He's constantly badgering on the Hufflepuff house and everything.
It was one time.
Fair, but it's I'd leave if I was part of that house. I'm
What
just
the hell
sort
is
of
a Hufflepuff?
To be fair, at least Hufflepuff is a joke. One of my favorite houses in Ravenclaw gets absolutely no representation when it comes to much of anything.
I'm gonna be real honest. I know that people hate on that the movie used a raven instead of an eagle for Ravenclaw, but let's be real. What the fuck were you thinking, Rowling? Just make it a raven. You have Gryffindor. A griffin is part lion. You have Slytherin, which is a
clearly
snake.
a snake.
Hufflepuff, well, you can use whatever animal for you could have used a rabbit and it would have made sense.
Puff.
But Ravenclaw, and you used an eagle? Why?
Yeah.
To be fair, ravens and crows, and they're very smart birds. To be perfectly honest, they would have made an excellent version of an owl change if she really wanted to go
Well, not
that
even
extra
that,
mile.
but because Ravenclaw is the smart house, the book smart house, they have all the good grades. The raven and the crow being the smart birds would have made more sense than the eagle.
I mean, even if we're going with smarts, even an owl would have made more sense.
Or a magpie.
But an eagle. Why an eagle?
Yeah.
What was the point of the eagle?
Majestic.
I mean,
That's stupid. You have a badger. Those are just kind of, which, American badgers, ugly.
Honey badgers don't give a shit.
Honey badgers don't give a shit. But European badgers are adorable.
Okay, I got nothing then.
I see them in a lot of children's books and stuff where they're usually very prim and proper, and they've got a nice. They're almost like hobbits in some ways, but yeah. So
We digress.
Malfoy bullying his dad into getting the broom for him and everything definitely implies that Malfoy is well loved, and the comparisons with Dudley are
Quote,
pretty spot
loved.
on as well, considering he automatically gets similar vibes and stuff. And servant when referring to Hagrid and everything, and I'm just sort of wow, this kid can't fucking read the room worth a damn. I feel like my 7-year-old has more social awareness
Now,
than
speaking
Malfoy
of
does.
our 7-year-old, I have to back you up and say, Malfoy is, quote, loved well, unquote. We really love our daughter, but there's no way we're just gonna bend to her every whim. There's a difference between, hey, I think my child would really like this thing, let me get it for them, and Dad, I demand this. Okay.
Well, to be fair, just because some people do use spoiling their kid as a form of love,
but that's
they-
spoiling.
That's true. I mean, the Dursleys love
Hi,
Dudley
Pixie.
and they spoil him rotten. There's a point though, it's you still have to set boundaries. They're still children.
Yeah.
Speaking of parenting and stuff along those lines, this is probably one of Hagrid's best overarching showings as just an individual, a teacher, a parent, in a sense. Like, I know, like, Rowling went on to basically say that Mr. Weasley is one of the father figures and everything. She sadly misses the man, like, who probably would fit that role better than any other male
feel like
character.
Mr. Arthur Weasley doesn't really parent.
I feel
Harry,
like when
though.
people use the term father figure, they're referring to someone who is a father but acts as someone else's father. Whereas Arthur is already a dad. He's acting in a way like Harry's dad, but Hagrid isn't a dad.
He adopts a child.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying that's what people usually say when they refer to the father figure.
That's fair.
You could.
I don't know. I'm split. I feel like father figure is more of just somebody who's an active male role model who replaces the father figure.
No, I'm not negating
always
you
a
guys.
father.
No, I'm not negating you guys. I'm just thinking maybe that's why Rowling said Weasley instead of Hagrid.
Maybe.
I agree almost to a T with Kimmy's statement in terms of a father figure and stuff being an adult male in a person's life and everything. They're not necessarily, in my personal, like, there was one thing that there was part of your explanation that I can't remember at this point in time that I didn't entirely agree with, and it was just the one thing, and now I can't remember it, so it must not have been that important. Anyway,
did I say because replaces the father?
Yes, you don't necessarily have to, like, you know. You can have multiple father figures in your life depending on different aspects of your life. You could have a spiritual father. You could have a family.
Fair. Because it's just somebody, a father figure. Take it at its literal translation of father figure. Somebody who resembles a father
in your life.
Okay.
But where was I and everything? The reason I brought up Mr. Weasley is because of the fact that it was a notorious comment that she wanted to kill off a father figure in Harry's life and stuff, and so she is originally going to kill off Mr. Weasley, and instead
he's not really a father figure in Harry's life.
For Sirius.
Yes, which, to be fair,
Right,
I feel
that.
hits a lot harder,
Yes.
and I would not change it for the world.
No.
But if there was ever going to be an individual whose death would have hit the worst out of everybody, I feel Hagrid would have been.
Yeah.
Hagrid would have crushed Harry. Like, his death would have crushed
They
Harry.
would have crushed us.
And us as the readers, because Hagrid is just nothing but lovable. He is pure goodness. I mean, sure, he gets drunk and he spills secrets he shouldn't, but he's got an innocent soul. Everything he does is purely out of the good of his heart.
Hagrid is that looks like will kill you. Is a cinnamon roll.
100%.
I could,
100%.
if he was a Muggle, I could see him being part of a biker gang that have have like chihuahuas or like like they have like little baby dogs in their little bags basically. I think I remember seeing that on Reddit somewhere.
He's the guy who has a Rottweiler who's got the cute little baby name and puts little bows on his Rottweiler. Named Cuddles. And he puts it in a basket.
He'd have both. He'd have like this super like this notoriously ferocious breed of animal, and then he'd also have like something super cute and adorable on the side and everything. But
so you mean a Rottweiler and a Chihuahua?
You'd have the animal that thinks it's a vicious killer.
Rottweiler.
And the thing that is a vicious killer.
Chihuahua.
The Chihuahua.
Wait,
as a vet tech.
supposed to be the backwards.
No. As a vet tech, can confirm.
To be fair, I feel like Chihuahua... Well, no, not Chihuahuas. I'm thinking other small dogs were bred for rat killing, which was... Let's be real, rats are vicious.
Rat terrier?
I was thinking Chihuahuas, I think, were, if I'm not mistaken...
They're just lap dogs.
Were meant for animal sacrifices. But I could be wrong.
I mean, they're Mexican, so who knows what the Aztecs were up to. Off topic.
Not us.
Like Hagrid does some seriously heavy lifting in terms of it. I completely forgotten how self-conscious Harry was, especially in the early parts of the book. Like this kid has no
fail.
He's got no freaking self-esteem, and like Hagrid is just there to put that courage back in him in a sense. Another small point that I wanted to topic about Hagrid is that one of the podcasts I was listening to and everything was going into the idea of how Voldemort got his wand back and everything, and the theory they actually tossed out is that Hagrid took it. because a lot of people were kind of trying to figure this out and everything as to how like Voldemort ended up getting his wand back. Because most people would have like destroyed it in a sense, you know what I mean? Like anybody from the Ministry got a hold of it, or would have like obviously snapped that son of a bitch in half, basically. The ongoing theory is that when Hagrid was the first on the scene, basically, he showed up, found the wand, and picked it up for self-defense on the off chance Voldemort was still around, and then just kept it. Because there were some later scenes that actually say that he often holds on to things and not necessarily realizing their value, like the unicorn hair and stuff that he had in his during book. I think it was book 7, Half-Blood Prince.
But that is a good point that I never even thought about, because
I've never thought about it either.
And it gets even
because we know it's Voldemort's original wand because it brings out book. James and Lily's spirits.
I think Peter Pettigrew takes it.
But here's the kicker. Where did we find Peter Pettigrew in book 3?
The Weas. Oh, in Hagrid's hut?
Exactly. And he had to use somebody else's wand. If he had Voldemort's wand on him that night, he would have used that wand instead of trying to scavenge somebody else's. I can't remember if it was Remus's wand that he tries to steal. But during that transformation and stuff, he grabbed somebody else's wand in order to transform himself, because apparently he doesn't have that perfect animagus thing going on just yet.
You're doing in the movie. You're talking about the movie.
No, I think it was like the information they may be pulling from might be from both the book and the movie. We can double check this in book 3. But he does go for a wand in the book, if I'm fairly confident. But if he had Voldemort's wand on him, he wouldn't have needed to run for it. He could have just pulled the wand that he already had. Because does he strike you as the type?
Would he use Voldemort's wand? Because that doesn't seem like a thing that Peter would do, even.
But also, what if he had Voldemort's wand but had it hidden somewhere?
But here's
who knows?
Here's the kicker, though. If he found it in Hagrid's hut and everything and stuff along those lines, picked it up on his way out, basically, that would explain how the actual wand was protected for such a long period of time, that Peter would have been able to get to it, realistically speaking. There are some holes you can pop in this and everything, but it was such an interesting idea, I figured I would throw it out.
It is an interesting theory. I just don't think that Hagrid was so focused on Harry that night, I don't think he would have bothered, because also, in that case, wouldn't he have had James and Lily's wands too?
Or even his own umbrella?
He would have had his umbrella at that point in time.
Probably.
But to be perfectly honest, if you find the person who's been going around killing everybody, who you're not afraid to say the name of and everything, and you find his wand on the ground, yeah, why not make sure the guy can't cast any spells at you?
Well, he is afraid to say his name.
I did say that.
You said wasn't afraid.
Was afraid. I meant was afraid. Sorry. Oh. I tripped over my own words. Was afraid. Like, if you were absolutely so afraid of saying the individual's name and everything, and you stumbled across his killing, wand, basically, more or less, I would probably be like, yeah, I'm going to make this as difficult as humanly possible, because this is already terrifying enough.
I don't know.
I just can't get behind the theory, I think.
It's
an interesting theory, and you're right. He does collect things but he would have known how valuable a murder is, the murder weapon.
Fair.
Most people don't just pick up a murder weapon and be like, weird, and stick it in a pocket.
To be fair, this is Hagrid we're talking about. But my thought process being is the idea that Voldemort ended up getting his wand snapped in a sense, and so Hagrid takes his in retaliation is just sort of kind of ironic in a sense.
That's fair. He's like, I'll have your wand now, but...
It's mine now. To be fair, though, I don't think Hagrid ever actually found out until either after his death and everything that Tom Riddle was in fact Voldemort, because it was it wasn't exactly a well-known fact, to be perfectly honest, if I recall. So it would, if anybody would have known the irony of the situation, it would have been Dumbledore. And whether or not he would have gotten Dumbledore may have intentionally had the wand kept because he knew the fact he could have put a on the off chance that he you know what I mean, this could be important in terms of him keeping you know what I mean, especially with how it worked out in book 4 with the two wands connecting and everything, for all we know Dumbledore could have realized what it was, asked Hagrid to hold on to it for safekeeping because we know the guy is willing to, trust him with his life. So they're off topic.
Yeah, let's get back to Diagon Alley.
I have to admit, I do envy Harry in terms of needing 6 eyes, though. It'd be like, just take everything in. When we went to the Universal Studios and everything, and
Oh,
actually...
it's so nice to have had that many eyes.
Oh, God, that
There
place was
so
filled
much.
with so many details.
You had a child with you at that point, right?
She was pregnant.
Oh, you were pregnant. Okay.
Well,
thank God, because if you had a kid, you'd get to see even less.
Yeah, I was pregnant with Rose at that point.
But, interesting fact that while we were listening, Draco says that his dad went to get his books and his mom was looking at wands.
No, you got those reversed.
No,
I think he said mom was looking at wands.
Mom was looking at wands, father was getting books.
Hold on.
Okay.
Checking the book here.
Either
way, until we figure out the confirmation on that, one parent was looking at wands, but we also just get the info that the wand chooses the wizard. So was she going to buy his wand or just taking a look until he got over there? Because that's an interesting fact of, could Draco have been even a better wizard in school if he had picked the wand himself?
Yeah, he said, my father's next door buying my books, and mother's up the street looking at wands.
Color me proven wrong. Fair enough. But
or were they going to make sure that he only had certain wands that he could choose from to... Because we know that, based on Pottermore, certain wand woods are better for certain kinds of spells.
I know for a fact that you can get them secondhand. I could have sworn at some other point when we're in Diagon Alley in a future book, there is some mention of like getting a secondhand wand and stuff along those lines. So obviously Ollivander isn't the only game in town when it comes to getting a wand.
Malfoys. They're not
I know.
Secondhand.
I know. So the wand originally mentioned, I don't know if this is in the book or not. It's been forever since I've read the final book in the Harry Potter, but I do know in the movies that Ollivander grabs the actual wand that Harry took from Malfoy and said, its loyalty is now to you. So the wand did choose Malfoy originally before Harry won its loyalty by taking it from Malfoy specifically. So I'm wondering if they were just basically giving, being paranoid and everything and making sure there was nobody else there to really, bother or shake, Ollivander down and be like, hey, by the way, don't screw my kid over or anything along those lines. Because who knows?
It sounds like Narcissa, give my kid the best.
Yeah. To be fair, though, you'd think that, obviously you're going to get the best fit with Ollivander regardless, considering I think many of the wands that get taken from Death Eaters in the final book are all basically meant he knows he's familiar with the wand in a sense. Wand lore is just so wildly crazy, and
could be its own podcast.
I think I totally lost track of what the original point was here.
Yeah, somebody getting the wand for Malfoy.
Why was Narcissa going to get Malfoy's
Did she buy the wand, or was she just looking at
it? It says just looking.
So but it makes a good point. If she was looking and then went to purchase it, could Draco have been better if he had picked his own wand? Or it's also possible the Malfoys didn't believe in the whole "the wand chooses you" kind of thing, and they kind of just pick the wands that they want.
I would argue that the fact that Harry won the loyalty of the wand from Malfoy kind of implies that the wand was loyal to him. So it wasn't going to fight him. Whereas I think it's gone on record that Ron's wand, which was originally Percy's old wand, did fight him in a sense. And that it was difficult. And it was same with Neville as well. So I think there's a difference between having a wand that is actively fighting against you and a wand that is actually loyal to you in a sense.
But
I feel like knowing that there are poverty witches and wizards, muggle-borns, and rich witches and wizards, don't you? I feel like their first wand would be here you go.
A givey.
A givey. Here you go. Your first wand. We're setting you up for success.
The government pays Ollivander to supply a first wand. It's you can charge whatever you want for a wand, but kids get a free wand.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting idea.
That would make so much more sense.
School is free.
The school is free. Why isn't the wand, at least their first wand,
Why aren't
free?
their supplies free?
Right.
That does raise so many questions on what happened, like accidentally breaking them, damaging them, replacing them
But, like,
midway through schooling, because Percy still has a wand
Right.
when Ron has his original. So that
Right.
raises a couple of questions.
And that brings up a couple of other questions. Like, Ron has Percy's old wand. When Ron is going into school, does Molly and Arthur love Percy more than Ron because they gave Percy 2 wands for school because he's head boy and perfect?
He wasn't even
His
head
first
boy
one
at
might
this
have
point.
been. His first one might have been a secondhand wand too.
They did say there was a lot of wear on it. Like, you can see, like, a little bit of the unicorn hair and stuff. And if I recall some of my, like, Pottermore knowledge, I think it was the unicorn hair wand specifically are particularly loyal to their owners in a sense, and are very finicky with, like, as a hand-me-down and everything. Like, it went into explanation as to why Ron had such a hard time learning certain spells and stuff early on in the series.
Which also, getting, still on the Draco point, you were saying that, like, it was, or with the wands fighting, we know that Neville and Ron's wands did have a previous owner, but nothing's to say you can't just pick whatever wand, and it works fine, because as long as it was a new wand. Because Draco could have bought him a wand, and it worked fine because it didn't have a previous owner, it wouldn't necessarily fight him, but a wand that you're attuned to will work better.
I see what your point, but
you can still use, Harry uses other people, the Draco's wand that he won, fine. But it's not, he's not performing anything great with it.
And this might be movie memory, because I don't remember if it happened in book 3, but Harry uses Hermione's wand.
But he says it doesn't work very well for
in the seventh,
him.
in the seventh book,
He
snapped and he had to borrow her wand.
He specifically said that it did not work well for him, but that Draco's worked really well for him because he had won it specifically. And like there was a couple other ones that they had picked up that they had asked Ollivander to check out on everything.
Yeah, so I feel like you could probably use, for the most part, any wand.
Brand new wand.
But
easily.
Harry could tell the difference. So it's one of the, like, I don't feel, it's one of those things where I don't think there's a definitive answer unless Word of God is that J.K. Rowling comes down and actually clarifies it. But I do feel like you do have a point in everything where it's just like, theoretically speaking, Malfoy could have been more of a menace.
If his mom was the one who purchased the wand. But again, we don't know for sure.
Another thing, though, is going back into the movies and stuff, and even touching on the book a bit, that scene with Ollivander in the original movie creeped me the fuck out.
Yeah.
When I first met Ollivander and everything, with how intense he was, the music playing and everything and stuff along those lines, I was like, are you a villain? Like, because you're kind of creeping me out a little bit
just
here.
The way he spoke, too.
It's brother gave you that scar. I'm just sort of like, Jesus, man, he creeped me out more than Snape did
It's
when
such
I was
an intense
watching.
scene.
He was
really
very
is.
good.
Very
But, like,
memorable,
he was
though.
cool.
Oh, yeah.
But in the book, you don't get that vibe.
No.
And then
as much. He's just a daughter
la,
love
la, la.
man. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, so sorry
Curious.
about that. Didn't mean to do that.
Oh,
How
man.
unfortunate, really.
You know, the other funny thing while going through this and all is the tape measure thing that's actually measuring between his nostrils and
Why is
everything.
it measuring between his nostrils?
It's just on autopilot at that point.
I'm thoroughly convinced, this is going to be a little bit of a Star Wars reference for anybody who is or isn't interested. I'm convinced magical items eventually develop like their own sense of sentience in a sense. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's kind of confirmed later in the book. Like, we see other items that do that.
Yeah, I feel like when we go to Molly's house, the Weasley house in book 2, there's shit's just doing its own thing.
Yeah, so I think you're right. It does. It just gains its own sentience. It does what it wants.
The dishes are washing themselves. There's like a scarf being knit.
Kind of similar to the droids in Star Wars, where if you don't mind, like memory wipe the droids on occasion and stuff, they start developing like personality quirks and everything. And that's where I drew the connection and everything, is that Ollivander's probably been using that exact same measure, forever, basically, for his entire career. And like the thing is just so often measuring things and stuff is just sort of like, I'm going to just keep acting up and
I'm
everything,
start
and having
measuring weird things. I want to know how big people's noses are.
Wait till it starts measuring the nose
It
hairs.
starts
God.
it starts comparing nostril sizes to wand lengths, being like, yes, the smaller
Coral.
distance, the smaller the wand. Yeah.
Oh my.
Also, it doesn't. The measurements mean nothing.
Yeah.
What do you mean
like,
by-
What is
why?
the point of Ollivander measuring anyway? Because the wand chooses the wizard, so he doesn't have to do it. He just has to keep handing people wands. Unless he knows a kind of vibe that, like,
There's a
you're more
formula.
likely to want these wands than these. And maybe Harry's just a special case because of the connection to Voldemort.
Here's the
This twin wand.
Here's the kicker. There are some correlations in terms of personality and like physicality when it comes to some of the stuff. I think if you go onto Pottermore and actually look up like Ollivanders and stuff, they go into a bit of explanation for it. Apparently, like certain types of like wand flexibility is usually an indication to open-mindedness.
Oh,
like
yeah. The more
firmer-
flexible,
Yes, the more
the more, like, willing to change you are. Certain wands are good for certain kinds of magic.
Sometimes depend like the wand length is oftentimes kind of determined by two things: the size of the actual wizard in question, and or the personality. Like, so there's usually been a thing where like certain longer wands usually favor personalities of like more grandiose, bigger personalities than the actual wizard themselves. Like there is I think there's a whole section on just the wood alone, going into detail about like certain woods being for certain types of personalities and certain types of characters and stuff along those lines. You know what I mean? So there probably is some thing to the actual measuring of the physical wizard in a sense to get a decent indication, because like obviously your physical height and stuff would impact how big or how small the wand you would necessarily be able to handle, while actually showing some leniency when it comes to certain types of personalities.
Yeah.
Because like I think it goes into say, well, that's not necessarily true about like certain things. It's more of a art than a direct science in a sense, and so you never know if like every bit of information that he's probably accumulated, he's probably like, okay, this is this length, this is a good starting point to go from, because obviously it didn't go through his first one, so obviously Harry is like an anomaly in terms of all of the normal things that he discovers just measuring a person and looking at them to give them the wand that they like, you know what I mean? Like obviously he's
So I was just looking up on Pottermore. It says that like abnormally short wands select those whose character is something lacking rather than their actual size. Though sometimes a longer wand will indicate that, if you are a taller or larger person, you will need a bigger wand.
I can't remember a minor detail about which parent was going and looking at wands, but I could tell you wand lore off the top of my head with some damn good accuracy. Figure that one out.
Especially something you only read about 20 minutes ago.
Quiet, you.
Never. This is a podcast. I'm supposed to talk.
Sassy bitch.
I try. So, another thing we talked about briefly while we were reading it, Gringotts.
Oh, yeah.
About, Mitchell had to bring up the fact, he's like, wait, it says it's the only wizarding bank. Does that mean there's only one Gringotts? Do the other countries not have banks? No, Gringotts is a multi-country... Multinational. Multinational bank. And he's like, well, that's a monopoly. Or Brandy said that. I'm like, but there's not a lot of wizards. Not a lot of need for banks. And the goblins run the banks. They're not going to want competition.
Fair. The size of this monopoly is insane, though. For a single race of beings to have complete control, basically, over money in terms of the wizarding society over the course of the entire planet. Like, there are corporations in the United States that would kill for being able to claim of half of that in a sense. I don't necessarily think Rowling took the severity of the possibility of such a thing, like such a thing actually being put to paper. It's stuff like this where it's like you start really thinking about it and everything, and it's just sort of like, oh, how much, like, if the goblins wanted to, they could theoretically shut down commerce, basically, on such a massive scale. There is no war. You don't get your fucking money. you listen to us or else.
Yeah,
well,
pretty much.
here's the thing, though. If they did that, the wizards would then fight back. It would then be a war.
Oh yeah, there'd be
They're
some...
like, no, we'll go to war again. Plain and simple. So the goblins are like, well, we get money out of this too, so like, it'll work.
Oh yeah, but
I just thought of something crazy when, especially talking about monopolies and everything. But like, the Weasleys are poor, right?
Yeah.
Why do they? And we all crazy thing about Hogwarts not supplying school supplies or books. What is stopping the Weasleys from taking that first book that they bought, the first year book, and going duplicate? Or one set of Lockhart's books, duplicate.
Right.
Why aren't they doing this? Like, sure,
not legal.
It's not ethical. We don't know if it's legal or not.
That's true. Ethical is what I was
But
aiming
like,
for.
magic solutions, people.
It does.
Magical problems require magical solutions.
Simple solutions. It's not even a magical problem. It's just it's a money problem.
On. Let's go. Let's take this a step further down the ethical route. Why can't they use duplicate on their money?
Actually, I think that's goblin.
I think it's enchanted gold.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. The goblins do something. The goblins, like the house elves, have their own sense of magic when it comes to creating things. I think there's a specific. They've even got
plus
certain
serial numbers.
Yeah, they got
the coins
certain,
do have serial numbers.
Yeah,
okay.
and they even mention that the serial number actually indicates the goblin that made it as well. So like, there's a full freaking indication. Like, but
wow.
Still, it's like, okay, I could go buy a fish and like double the fish in a sense.
Yeah,
or
they
I
mentioned that. It's one of the laws of like transmit. You have to have something to start with to make more.
I think you couldn't magic food into existence by itself.
No, because you have to start with some. You have to have some of it to make more of it.
Yeah.
So you have a fish, you can replicate it and have lots of fish.
And you can turn inanimate objects into other animals and stuff. I turn you into food, into pig, and now I'm going to turn this into bacon.
Would they still get the This is where the world building falls apart with the law. This is why when you build a world, your magic needs to have rules to ensure that things don't
turn into chaos.
Theoretically, there should be no starvation, no nothing in the wizarding world for sure, because it's now food.
Here's the thing, though, is that water directly contradicts the law that was... I think there was Bendek's law or something. There was a named law of not being able to create your own food using a spell. But water is something you can consume and can produce with your actual wand.
And there's a spell.
Aguamente.
Yeah.
In all fairness, there's always... We'll get into the science side of the magic here. The water... There's always hydrogen and oxygen in the air. It takes all of that, forms water, and then replicates the water.
True, but if that becomes the case and stuff, technically there's certain nutrients and stuff in terms of like iron, metal, certain things that we actually do need to consume that would also be in the air, even potentially having, biomass into the air as well, theoretically speaking. You could run with that mindset and stuff and really stretch how the world works in a sense.
You know what? True. It's true. Also, you were talking about like transforming. Most of the transfiguration lessons are the other way around, turning animals into inanimate objects.
That's true.
Beetles into buttons. There was
animals into goblets.
The porcupine into a pincushion, basically.
Oh, yeah.
So,
where she's like, if I come at it with a pin and it starts moving, you're gaining docked points, I think was one of the lessons that McGonagall ended up having.
So, most of the maybe you can't turn things into animals. It has to be the other way around.
Not going to prove my case.
Well, no,
the only case
Lily
I can remember...
the fish.
No, he summoned the fish.
No, she made a charm. She turned a petal into a fish.
Oh, yeah.
Because it turned into a petal again when she died.
Yep.
I wonder if that would... that raises so many questions.
Would that be a charm or a transfiguration?
See, then we're getting a whole thing about...
What's the difference between charms and transfiguration?
All right, let's go back to Diagon Alley.
Gringotts. I've been meaning to bring this up this whole time. 17 silver sickles to a galleon and 29 nuts to a sickle. It's easy enough. What part about that is easy?
Nothing. That's confusing math.
That sounds like the American, like, you know...
And hilariously enough, this is coming from Britain.
Yes.
Hey, look, man. Look, even D&D has its, 1 copper to 10 silver, or the other way around, sorry.
10 to 10 to 10.
It's 10 to 10 to 10.
They do the metric.
But, like...
Irony,
But no, we're gonna have some random gibberish numbers that... Where does the math? Unless...
Welcome back to America, folks.
Unless there's some arithmetic, meaning behind it that makes more sense.
Oh, it would not surprise me
Please, if you know, leave it in the comments.
I'm sure there's some symbolism behind it, because I think some people had a whole thing about Snape's questions towards Harry during his introduction in terms of his class.
Yeah,
it's like mentioning like, oh yeah, this entire thing has this whole thing that you can break it down, and basically I deeply regret Lily's death, basically.
Which,
all sent
yeah,
I think that was totally by accident.
I would not be surprised.
I do not give
by accident.
Rowling enough credit, because I don't think that her redemption of Snape... I am fully
Started
on this
that early.
theory, is that the redemption of Snape only started because she thought that Alan Rickman was hot and wanted him to end up being a good guy.
I mean, it's Alan Rickman.
I'm curious as to how well that tracks, because if I recall correctly, Book 4 specifically has a scene that I did not remember this and stuff, but it was mentioned to me that he shows up on the sneaker scope thing that Mad-Eye Moody has as one of Fake Moody's enemies.
But
it is at that point where somebody pointed out that they knew the true loyalty of Snape and everything, because they noticed that detail in the actual story. When we get to that point, we can double check back on it and everything. But if Alan Rickman was originally cast as Professor Snape before that book came out, your theory has some serious weight behind it.
Well, fair. Which I think the first movie came out after the fourth book did.
True, but my counterpoint to that is, just because it was released then does not necessarily mean the casting hadn't already been started before the release of Book 4.
Good point. I'm not sure when the talks of Harry Potter becoming a movie came out. Counterpoint, though, Snape would show up in Fake Moody's Faux Glass. It was Faux Glass. As an enemy, because Barty Crouch Jr. would have thought that Snape was a turncoat after he would have just thought that Snape had no loyalties to Voldemort anymore. Because he was literally working for Dumbledore. So, I don't think the Faux Glass has some innate knowledge of knowing whether somebody is truly your foe or not. I think it really just depends on who you believe to be your foe.
Yeah.
Snape worked for Dumbledore. Obviously, he's like... Oh, you got off scot-free during the fall of Voldemort, and you're working directly for the man? Yeah. You're obviously my enemy.
Also,
okay, you know what? Fair point.
I think
you have successfully disproved that theory quite effectively. All right, I'll go.
Fair enough. Not like saying it's... I just meant with the Faux Glass specifically.
But I'm going to put another nail in that coffin, because Goblet of Fire book came out in July of 2000, but the Sorcerer's Stone movie didn't come out until November of 2001.
So, unless they were casting a whole year ahead of...
A year, like 2 years ahead of schedule.
Yeah. So, my theory of Rowling only changing Snape's personality to be a true good guy...
Could be legit.
Yeah. Because, also, we don't know... We didn't know that Snape was one of Voldemort's men until the 5th book.
Yeah. After Sorcerer's Stone would have came out.
He was always sketch, but we didn't know for sure until... No, wait.
No, it was Book 4, because he revealed that he was talking to Karkaroff on that one, and it was actually brought forth in the pensive.
Yeah.
True. So she probably had no choice if she wanted. He would have had to have become a spy to some degree, or it's whatever.
We didn't know if he was gonna go back, his true
intentions.
But the whole thing about him being in love with Lily and stuff, I don't know if that was planned early on, because
The only time
We-
either of his parents are mentioned at any point in time is usually involves to James. There's no mention of there being any connection whatsoever between Snape and
Lily.
Lily.
So again, I still think it was one of those. She
Happy-
thought Alan Rickman was hot, so she changed Snape's character. We could be wrong until she confirms this, but
To be fair, though, many artists and stuff, George Lucas included, oftentimes say, "Oh, it was all part of the plan," even though there are
There
in
was
fact
no plan.
details that actually completely disprove that in a sense. Like Lucas has gone on like many things. As a Star Wars fan, I keep an eye on him and everything, but he's gone on like this was the original plan. Like this was supposed to happen. Everything that happened was originally supposed to be there. I planned it all out in advance. Like it was like no. We've got a hold of the original scripts. We know the original story for Star Wars and everything. We have mentions of the original draft of Empire Strikes Back. Anakin was actually supposed to show up as a ghost, a Force ghost, instead of Obi-Wan Kenobi, basically, to actually talk with him with the original draft. He changed it to Darth Vader and Anakin being the same person. It was one of the greatest decisions he could have possibly made and everything.
the big twist of, no, I am your father.
To be fair, though, there's plenty of occasions where, like, Harry Potter takes that idea and runs with it. There's always a red herring when it almost always a red herring when it comes to every single one of the Harry Potter books. I think the only time Harry is directly on point with his suspicions is when it's Malfoy and nobody fucking believes him.
Nobody fucking believed him.
I'm like, well, to be fair, Dumbledore knew what was going on and basically was just sort of like,
So did Snape.
yeah, but
Ron
it's
and
still it's
Hermione
kind
were
of
like, no.
I feel like Dumbledore.
We know
should
you
have
hate him, but no.
I feel like Dumbledore should have thrown Harry a bone. It's just sort of like, I know what's going on. I know what he's trying to do. I've got it under control. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean? And
But
Harry
just
would have
acknowledge
listened to
it.
Dumbledore.
Just acknowledge him.
Like, yeah, come on, guys.
Well, but then he couldn't acknowledge Harry without Harry being like, all right, let's do it. Let's do something about it. They couldn't really do that.
To be fair, he was going to do something about it regardless.
Well,
the very
sure,
least
but
you could
Harry
do
would
is...
have been like, well, then why aren't you doing anything about it?
Because if I do something, it could potentially get the poor boy killed. He's doing this because he's...
Harry doesn't give a shit about Draco getting killed.
Yes, but I feel like Harry would have respected Dumbledore's
decision. But we're getting off
Way
track.
off
We're running
topic.
out of time. What more do we have to talk about Diagon Alley?
I just love the name of it. I love the design.
Diagonally.
Diagonally.
Oh man, the art book, the physical art, like the massive books and stuff that have like the illustrated versions, have a wonderful picture of like the entire alley. Like there's only a little bit of text over the top of both pages, as there's just this beautiful spread of the entire thing. And going to like the Universal and hearing the bricks moving as you get closer and closer to that entrance of the Wizarding World and everything, it was so fucking cool.
I'm jealous.
Massive highlight.
I want to go. It brings up a fair point though. You have this massive market, right? Hidden in the heart of hidden in London.
It's bigger on the inside.
Yes. Here's the question though: is it literally just they've expanded the space so that this whole place can fit
It's in a pocket dimension.
Is it a pocket dimension, or is there just a massive part of London that is blocked off from the Muggles,
Yes.
hidden behind it all, and has spells so you can't see it from the air and stuff?
Yes.
But in which case, how much is that screwing? If that's the case, how much are you screwing with measuring? So landscaping and things, you have to know how far things are from each other, but you've got this massive place in the middle of something that is either A, people just think it's abandoned.
Grimmauld Place. There is an entire mansion inside of basically what accounts to an apartment between two areas
In a townhouse.
Yeah, that just exists there unfettered. It wouldn't surprise me if magic is somehow a combination of you don't notice me and some sort of weird spell that allows them to basically collapse the area on the outside so that it looks like the world doesn't notice, like there is no missing
It's a
parts.
combination of TARDIS and
It's a perception filter.
Yeah.
And a perception filter. And it does say in the 5th book, we're a little off topic, we'll go right back. It say in the 5th book that when Harry's there without knowing that Grimmauld Place is there, his eyes slide from the one before straight to the one next to it.
Boy, that would be hard on
So
the neck.
it's there, but it's just not there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, perception filter combined with, you know,
bigger on
magical...
the inside.
Yeah.
Which also goes into the whole, who made these spells? Who made it, like, there's just, it doesn't make sense.
It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of magic is just stuff that kind of grew organically in a sense out of a necessity. Like I don't want to be noticed by the Muggles, and like a bunch of other wizards all slowly grouped together, and some of their spells started overlapping, creating this really weird pocket that really has no magical explanation for how it works. It just does because of so many people and so long with magic.
Because magic.
Because magic. I mean, to be fair, you could explain it in a way that it makes a sort of sense inside of the universe itself.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
I'm not saying that, saying because magic makes a book bad. Just, just have to keep into account that because magic is a cheap... It's basic.
It's not the most satisfying of answers.
Correct.
Anyway, we're getting close to needing to cut this off. We're already a good almost 50 minutes into this and everything, and our friend Kimmy needs to go, so I figure signing off would be good. Plug your stuff.
Do we have to do this every episode?
You need to remind everybody to like and subscribe.
Oh. Well, we haven't even said that once.
We really haven't. We're really bad about it.
Hit the like and subscribe button.
Pretty please.
So you can find me on Hackathon Candle, Soul Soy Candles, and I've also got another YouTube channel, if you don't mind me shamelessly plugging, Brandywine Stitches.
She is going to be a floss tuber.
Yeah,
Very exciting.
Talking about all of my cross-stitch and creative projects, so catch me over there.
You can find me on social media at Luna's Creation Corner. Mostly on TikTok, but, we'll see you around.
All right.
But until next week, keep
and
your wands.
where can they find your streams?
Yeah.
We're gonna make us do it. You're gonna do it too. Where can
He
they
doesn't
find
remember
your
again.
Cole, I'm Cole Sanders on Twitch, and I'm currently in the process of finishing up Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at the point in time. I'm almost done with it. I'll let you guys know what game I'll be picking up next and everything, and when I'm starting that and stuff. Giving a
and
decent
you can
heads
find
up.
us in the links below.
Yep.
Fine, I'll put my link in there. Now do your wand
I
thing.
hope so. Wow, rude. But until next week, keep your wands at the ready.